Everybody, welcome to the 18 Strong podcast. This week, we've got the guys from Athletic Motion Golf, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things regarding your golf game. We're going to talk about a lot of the ahas and maybe myths that a lot of golf instruction has kind of taught over the period of the time that you've been learning golf. But, after looking at some of the technology and what these guys are doing over on their channel at Athletic Motion Golf, I personally have had a lot of aha moments and times where I've learned things that I didn't know was actually going on in the golf swing. And once you're able to see the views, the visuals of the pros versus the amateurs, it's like you get to see in 3D what actually should be happening or what really is happening in the golf swing. So I'm happy to bring in Mike Granato and Shaun Webb from Athletic Motion Golf. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate having us on.
Absolutely. So, guys, I've been kind of digging into your stuff, almost been addicted to your stuff now for the past couple of weeks, really just kind of watching some of the different videos. And like I said in the intro, the visual that you guys create with not just you guys on camera and showing us the different drills and the different ways to, kind of go through your lessons, but then you take the 3D analysis and look at it and show us kind of the right and the wrongs. It's been so eye-opening to see some of those things. So first of all, I just want to thank both of you guys for putting out the information that you do. It's been so nice to kind of clarify some of these things.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun putting that out there. It's a lot of fun for us learning that stuff. Like, I don't think anybody, I know nobody knows everything about the golf swing there is to know. So whenever we can gather enough data for a certain topic and, look at it kind of objectively, it's always a cool thing for us. And then we get to turn around and make a video of it and share what we see. And apparently it's helping some golfers out there, and we're thrilled about that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Shaun, I want to know what's kind of the origin story of Athletic Motion Golf? How did the two of you guys come together, and maybe even have each of you guys give a little bit of background on yourselves so the audience understands where you guys are coming from in the instruction world?
Yep. So let me think back. I think I had known of Mike, but we hadn't really met before. We ended up going to a Swing Catalyst seminar together, and we ended up sitting next to each other. And I always knew I wanted to have a way to share information online so we could help more golfers and not have to stand in front of them on the lesson tee. I just thought that would be a great way to be able to help more people. And I got to talking to Mike, and Mike was showing me some of the stuff he was doing with his website, and I'm thinking, man, Mike, who is doing this stuff? Your website is phenomenal. And the videos he had that he was producing, he's like, well, I'm doing it. So I was like, so you're producing all these videos and making these websites? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, we need to do something together, because for years I've been wanting to put something together online. And I think if we got together and kind of share what I have and what you know about your end of stuff and combine our teaching knowledge, maybe we could do something that people would like to watch. And that's how it started. We named the company that night, and we bought the domain name, and then we were off to the races. We didn't know what we were doing, but we thought we had something.
Still feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, that was how it started.
That's how it always starts, just an idea, and then it's kind of like, okay, now we got a name, and now what are we gonna do? So, Mike,
we had T-shirts before we had anything else.
Sometimes that's the most fun part about it, putting together the logo, and then you're like, oh, crap, we actually have to put some information out. We got to put this stuff together. So, Mike, where did the name Athletic Motion Golf come from? Because I know you guys talk a lot about bringing the athleticism into the game and into the instruction.
Yeah, we had both of us have pretty big, diverse sports backgrounds, and we wanted to bring more of what we learned playing those other sports and apply it more to the golf swing, rather than, we get to work with a lot of former athletes because of our backgrounds in other sports. And then, you can take the most gifted, just one of those kind of super athletes, and then you put a golf club in their hand, have them stand still, and the ball standing still, and it looks like they can't walk and chew gum sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's how do you bridge that gap is really kind of the whole idea of what we were going for with naming the company.
That's interesting that you say that, because I've worked with a couple guys that are same deal, former professional athletes or just very highly skilled athletes from back in the day, collegiate level athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And it is funny how like they can be so gifted in multiple sports, and then you stand them there and then it's like so choppy, or it's so like mechanical. They're totally in their head. And sometimes like you just have to tell them like, no, just like hit the crap out of the ball, like it's another sport, right? And so, Shaun, what do you think it is that makes golf so different when these guys, who sometimes are the best of the best when it comes to athletic prowess, but even those guys still struggle like the rest of the regular recreational guys?
I think a big part of it is just like Mike said, everything is at a standstill. So, part of what we like to do with our players is give them drills that kind of get things in motion. We actually call them motion drills. And the main one that we use with people is just the classic kind of step drill that we've changed it a little bit just from seeing some of the data when we use the force plates. We feel like we have a little better way to do the step drill now. But a golfer starting with their feet a little bit closer together and making a backswing and then stepping and then hitting, all of a sudden like a light bulb goes off in their head, where now they can move when they hit the ball instead of feeling like they're so stagnant and having to start everything from just a dead stop. It really is a game changer for them once they can feel that a little more athletic movement in their swing.
So what is the athletic background that you guys have both had? Mike, you mentioned that you guys both have kind of extensive backgrounds in different diverse areas.
Yeah, Shaun was I'll let Shaun speak about his. I was highly recruited in both football and basketball coming out of high school, and I played basketball in college. Played all 4 years, and then got out and really like my body was just so beat up. So I wanted to start to put that same. I wanted to stay competitive, wanted to kind of compete, but I also wanted to do it where I wasn't going to have to go to the training room 3 hours before, 3 hours after, and kind of give my body a break. And I got into playing a lot of golf, a lot of amateur golf, a lot of competitive amateur golf. And the ship had sailed on playing professionally for me at that age, but I just fell in love with the sport. Then wound up having to have back surgery. Then that's when I really got into the learning how the mechanics of a swing should work for myself personally, just to stay healthy. And then that's where my interest for teaching the game kind of grew.
And how long ago was that you became a teacher? And where did you then kind of go? Where did you start, and how did that look to progress?
I had the surgery in 09, spinal fusion in 09, and during that recovery is when I knew my playing wasn't going to be able to hit enough balls to stay competitive playing. So I dove in and started finding everything I could and learning about the golf swing from there. So that's where my journey teaching it started.
And Shaun, how about you with your sports background, and then where did your teaching begin?
I played a little bit of everything growing up. I played baseball since a real young age, like 8 years old, I guess, and then golf when I was 5 years old. And I played basketball my whole life, not to the level Mike did. I think Mike scored like 3,000 points or something insane in high school. He won't tell anybody, but anyways, he scored a lot of points. But after high school, I went to college in Florida, and got hurt. I got in a car accident, ended up hurting my back, doing some other stuff, and then just started diving into the swing during college because I really wasn't playing that much. I just wanted to learn about the golf swing, and started teaching soon after. I think I'm 42. I'll be 43 pretty soon, so I think I've been teaching about almost 20 years now. So it's been doing it for a long time.
And I know you guys have had, you've worked with players of all levels, which I think is going to be really cool to talk about, just kind of the different levels and maybe some of the differences that you see. I know a lot of the guys and girls listening to this show are probably more on the recreational side, but, they're on that more serious recreational type golfer. If you're listening to a podcast about golf and fitness, you're a little more serious than the average Joe, right? I'm curious. So all the 3D data that you guys show in your videos, and, you talk about the pros versus the recreational golfers, where do you guys get all of that 3D data? Is that golfers that you have on the range? Is it swings that are already in the Gears motion system that you guys have access to? Mike, I'll have you go ahead and give us a little background there.
Yeah, with very few exceptions, we've captured them all ourselves. Yeah, ranging from the higher handicap players, the beginner players, all the way up to the major champions.
Gotcha. And Shaun, when you guys first started using, well, first of all, I'm going to have you maybe kind of describe the gears system for somebody that might not even know what that is yet, and kind of how crazy that is. But I'm curious for both of you guys, when you first started using that system, if there were specific things that even you guys were like, whoa, I didn't realize that that was actually what was going on. If there's like one or two things that really like stood out to both of you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the gear system is a 8 camera optical motion capture 3D system. There's markers placed on the body, almost like basically video game technology. So you get a 3D image of the golfer, and you can turn it and twist it any way you want, and capture the angles, rotations, bends of the golfer as it makes a swing. So it's really kind of unlimited amount of data if you really want to dig in there and look around. And some of the things that we started seeing, I guess, that stood out to us. A lot of our teaching, stems around how the golfer shifts forward in the golf swing, and I always knew there was a forward shift, but like how much and when, I guess you can really see when the timing of things happen. When with the video, sometimes it's skewed when the golfer's rotating as far as lateral motion and seeing that. But when you actually have the raw data of how much the golfer's moving laterally and exactly when that happens, it kind of some light bulbs go on, especially how much forward that the upper and lower body move on the downswing, and when it happens, I guess it's helped my swing more. I swing the club better now than I ever have, just because I feel like I know what I'm supposed to be doing so much better now. I don't know about Mike, but I mean, I hit the ball better now than I ever have, and I hit it farther. So it's helped me. Just from Mike and I doing these videos, we learn more than anybody else, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Mike, what was something that maybe really stood out to you, maybe even personally in your own golf swing or your own golf game, that you were able to implement?
I think if you kind of, I mean, this podcast would need to be a while to cover everything.
Yeah.
But if you kind of boil it down to one idea, it's most golfers we find have the movements already in their swing. It's just when they happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest difference between the guys playing for a living and the guys who just want to play better golf. It's when do those movements happen that really make all the difference.
So when I was doing some research on you guys and just some of the content that you've put out, I came across an article in Golf Magazine that is about you guys. I would assume you guys kind of wrote the content of this, and it came up with basically 10 different things that were labeled as swing killers in there. And I've got a whole list. We're not going to obviously go through the whole list of 10, but what would you say is one or two? Shaun, I'll have you start here, and maybe I'll pick one from each of you guys. One or two of the biggest kind of aha moments that golfers that come to you guys, they watch your videos or even in-person lessons, when you show them that, maybe you show them the 3D videos, and they're like, oh my God, I've never thought of it that way. I've never seen it that way. And it can kind of almost immediately make a huge difference in their game or in their swing.
I think for me, the concept of recentering, I think that was one of the swing killers, wasn't it, Mike? Just the idea that it's okay to have a little movement off the ball, laterally away from the target in the takeaway. And then the whole rest of the backswing, the golfer, as they're making their backswing turn, they're actually recentering. We kind of coined that term a while ago. As they're finishing their backswing turn, they're recentering and shifting back toward the target before the club changes direction. And that's a massive thing that most golfers have never even heard of. And when they see it on gears and they see they're doing the complete opposite of, let's say, like a Rory McIlroy is doing, when a golfer sees they're doing something completely opposite from a really good ball striker, a lot of times it's like an aha moment for them. And to me, that one can make the biggest difference in a real short amount of time, especially for someone that swings steep, which is most, or over the top, you would say, which is a lot of amateurs.
Yeah. So of the list, there's 10 of them here. I've got a couple of them starred. That was definitely one of them. Kind of the late loading in the backswing, and
That's it.
It's kind of the whole get your weight, shift your weight to the right side, and watching your videos, like, okay, that it makes sense because you've always heard people kind of say load up that right side, but then you get these guys drifting off the ball and all these different things. And so that was definitely one that I wanted to cover. Mike, what would be one that is really prominent for you?
I would say kind of in a similar vein. I was just editing a video on the topic, and it's that lateral motion to start the golf swing. That happens very early in the golf swing. And we had one of our pros in last night who brought his son in for golf lessons. He's I think 14 or 15 right now, so he's learning the game. And being the smart guy that he is not really trying to do the teaching. He's bringing in and trying to avoid that and just being the dad rather than being the dad coach. So we were going with his son. We were talking about this, and he also plays basketball. And it's like there's an effort to simplify the golf swing. It's a complex motion, right? So simplification is good, but oversimplification can be bad. So the idea that any slide, either away from the ball or away from the target or towards the target, is bad in a golf swing just isn't the case. And what clicked for this guy, this young golfer, was, him being a basketball player, is that if you want to jump higher, you're not going to remove the drop down before you jump. Like, that would simplify the jump if you didn't have to bend your knees and drop down, but it's not going to help your jump.
Exactly.
The same thing with the lateral movement in the swing. You can simplify and remove. We see golfers every day who try to remove that first part of that lateral motion, and they wind up taking the hips towards the target in the backswing. That simplifies it, but it doesn't help it. So you can strip so much away from the swing that you actually start to hinder it in possibly the opposite way.
Very interesting. I never would have thought of it that way, but that makes a whole lot of sense. Because simplifying always seems to be the right answer, but oversimplifying, I guess that totally makes sense. You don't want to remove the parts that are actually helping that piece. One kind of debate that's probably been going on forever. It seems like I'm just hearing more about it these days. Is kind of the swing your own swing versus like having a specific kind of swing model to kind of go towards. Shaun, what would you say to either or of that debate, the swing your own swing and kind of let people kind of have that natural athleticism versus having some sort of model, or is it more of an in-between kind of a thing?
You get guys coming in, high handicappers, and a lot of times they want to swing their own swing. The problem is their swing is no good. So, they're not doing anything that's going to help them. So swinging their swing and keep practicing their swing, they're just going to stay the same or get worse. So usually I say, hey, listen, let's take a look at your swing in 3D. If we find things that you're doing completely opposite from what good players are doing, your swing is not going to work. So let's try to move a little bit more in that direction. And we don't like to teach a methodology. We teach more of a flexible system, right? So everyone's going to do things in their own way based on their physiology, body type, and how they're going to swing the golf club, but needs to stay in certain parameters or windows, we call them. So we feel like we have the best of both worlds, and we have it on our website. We have a swing system basically that we allow golfers to get access to. We take them through 10 different checkpoints, and each one of those checkpoints, there's windows. As long as they're inside of those, hey, we're okay with that. There's room for flexibility based on what you do. But if you get outside these norms and these windows too far, you're going to start causing problems. And maybe let's just try to rein things in a little bit. And I feel like just over the last 20 years, that's the best way to go about teaching the game. You give somebody some parameters, but give them a little bit of flexibility.
I love it. It's like I don't know if you guys have heard the Club Pro guy. He says, "Don't swing your swing. Your swing sucks. Swing Louis Oosthuizen's swing."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mike,
Actually,
go ahead, Mike.
Our good buddy Monty Schleimblum actually asked Otto Palmer what he meant by that, and I'll paraphrase a little bit, but he was like, "You mean, just every swing can work?" And he goes, "No, what I meant was, whatever you show up with the range that day, that's the swing you have to play with. You don't try to fix your swing on the range to go out and compete." He said, you swing the swing that you have that day. He goes, if you got a terrible swing, you got to fix the swing.
Exactly right.
And I think one of the worst ideas that's kind of become popular a little bit is this idea of matchups. If you're working with a professional, right, a guy who makes his living playing the game, you have to work within what puts food on their table, and you have to to make sure that you chip a little bit away here, but you also add a little bit here, and you keep those matchups correct. But if you have a 10, 15 handicap or a guy just not happy with the way he's playing, you don't allow him to do certain things, or you don't encourage him to do certain things just because he does them naturally. Right?
Exactly right.
You have to build the fundamentals that these tour players already have. That it's one of the things that we'll see all the time when we do a video of, 99 out of 100 tour players will do X, and there's one outlier. Right? John Daly pops up all the time as an outlier, or Matt Kuchar as an outlier. Well, those are outliers, and those guys already know how to play the game. But if you're a 15, 20 handicapper or 10 handicapper in some cases, and you're trying to improve your game, it's not always great to try to do what the outliers do.
Right.
So it just, you got to balance the two, right? You want to balance good fundamentals, good movement patterns with your natural athletic ability.
So, Shaun, you mentioned you guys have a checklist of kind of 10 things that people can go to on your site, and I'll be sure to get the link from you guys to direct them to go to find that. But so when somebody comes to you and they maybe go through that checklist, are there certain things that you would have them start with? Like, are there certain things that you look at first in that checklist that kind of are like the big rocks, and then it kind of scales into other things?
Yeah, the main thing for me, the more we do this, the more we look at the setup and the backswing, and it's even starting with the grip. You see so many poor grips. Lead hand or left hand for a right-handed golfer gets in the palm. As soon as that grip gets in the palm, all bets are off. Normally the club goes back poorly, the face gets open. So, the first lesson with me is going to be checkpoint 1 for us, which is grip, setup, posture, alignment. Just trying to get things in order to give them a chance. It doesn't mean they're going to make a good swing, but it gives them a chance to make a decent swing. And to me, that's how I start things. And then we go to the backswing. And Mike and I feel like, the more we do this, the more we become backswing teachers.
Absolutely.
We want to get the golfer making a backswing that puts them in a position that their athleticism can come out on the downswing, where they can just hit the ball, where they can just make a free downswing, a freewheeling type downswing. But to tell a golfer it's okay to have any backswing and all that matters is impact, I think is a little short-sighted. The more I do this, I can fix so many swings by fixing the backswing. And then again, they don't have to try so hard to manufacture impact.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that so many times. Like, hey, you don't hit the ball with your backswing, but like from what I've learned from you guys, yeah, it's like if you're not in the right spot to start, it's kind of like your setup. If you're not starting at a decent setup, you're already kind of conditioning yourself to either be off balance or not be able to make a good turn. Mike, what are one or two of the biggest issues that we see? We've already kind of talked about kind of the shifting in the backswing. What are some other things that you guys really end up seeing in the backswing that then really impacts their position at the bottom?
Really the perception of the timing of the golf swing. So if you go from address to the top of the swing, a lot of golfers just perceive that. If you're looking at a clock face, perceive the top of the swing as kind of being half the golf swing, right? It's actually the 3/4 spot of the swing. So by the time you go from address to the top of your swing, 3/4 of your golf swing is over. And it's not until that last quarter of the swing where most golfers try to do most of the work.
That's right.
And you wind up trying to fit a whole lot into a very compressed amount of time, and you didn't take advantage of that slower moving part, that earlier part of the backswing. And when you do that, and then the lies start to get bad, or the stances start to get awkward, like you face in every round of golf, then things gradually degrade from there. So if you can learn to get yourself prepared to make kind of a reactionary downswing based on what you did from the backswing, rather than a corrective downswing, you're going to have so much more fun and such an easier time swinging the club. And just using that 3/4 of that first 3/4 of a second much more to your advantage.
I like that the way you just phrased that, instead of making a corrective downswing where you're trying to undo all the bad things that you did in the backswing. I like that a lot. So obviously one of the plagues of the recreational golfer, a lot of amateur golfers, is kind of that over the top slicing across the ball kind of an issue. Shaun, what's one thing that we can kind of maybe look at in our own swings, somebody that maybe even isn't having a golf instructor look at them, but, we know we're a guy that swipes across the ball and we tend to have that over-the-top move. What's something that if we video ourselves, we can look at right away and maybe start to make some changes that will help reduce that?
Yeah, a lot of times golfers are reacting to an open club face. When they're swinging over the top, they're doing it for a reason, which is they're trying to hit the ball to the target. So if the face is open, they're having to swing over the top just to get a ball that kind of curves back on the target line. So I would look at the grip, make sure it's strong enough or rotated enough to where when they take it back, they can have the club face in a little better position at the top instead of being so open. That's the number one thing. And the other thing they can do is just keep an eye on the where their pelvis is in relation to at the top of the backswing. If they shift off the ball too much and have a lot of tilt to the hips instead of having the right amount of rotation, that golfer 99.9 times out of 100 has to come over the top. So, the more we do this, okay, let's get the face oriented, but now let's get the pelvis in a spot, the legs and the pelvis, we can get them in a spot at the top of the backswing that's advantageous to them to swing down more from the inside. It'll click for them right away. I mean, I can fix over the top. Mike can too, 2 or 3 swings. It's just you see it enough now where it's like, okay, let me fix this and this, and we know the result, and it's pretty rapid how fast you can fix them if you can get those 2 things correct.
Mike, I'm curious, with all of the 3D analysis that you guys do, and as many golfers as you see, obviously I come from kind of a more the fitness, physical therapy background, and we're always looking at, what's the body doing, how does the body work, but when you guys have these guys and you're able to really see what's going on with a 3D motion capture, you're able to see what's going on with their swing paths, do you find that there's as much physical restriction that's actually restricting guys from making the move that they want in the swing? Or are you finding that it's more maybe motor pattern stuff, or maybe just somebody has never really learned the right way to do it as opposed to an actual physical part of their body limiting them from getting there?
I would say you get all 3, right? You get, and certainly combinations of all 3.
Mm-hmm.
I would say day in, day out, you have poor concepts, or the root of it is a poor concept. And then if you extrapolate that poor concept out, then you okay, I just don't have the physical ability. We see this all the time with golfers that say over the age of 55 coming in and, all right, I need more distance and I can't turn enough. I don't have rotation. And then you start to capture them on 3D, and you realize why they can't rotate or why they're not rotating. And one instance that comes to mind was a gentleman was 72 years old, and he made like a classic, the Caddyshack, the Mr. Haversham backswing, right? He's like, I can't turn. But what he was doing was just folding that right arm right off the bat to pick the club up. When you overbend that right arm early, your shoulders will stop.
Turn off, yeah.
Yep. We showed him how to fold his right arm correctly, and he picked up 32 degrees of shoulder rotation in about 10 minutes. And he had already thought that ship had sailed, and really doing nothing else but just learning how to bend his right arm correctly. So you can certainly unlock things that aren't broke, but if there's a physical issue, it's got to be addressed. But a lot of golfers, I think, are used to being told it's physical, when a lot of times it's just a concept or a swing mechanic that kind of creates the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just from, there's all these certain parameters that we look at from the body standpoint as far as hip rotation, things like that. But oftentimes, and I've kind of gotten some of this stuff from watching your stuff, watching some of the stuff with Nick Clearwater over at Golf Tech, that sometimes the positions we put ourselves in are what end up locking us more.
Right.
And then we have this mental or physical perception that, I can't do that. I'm stuck. But when somebody like you guys is able to then say, no, well, here's the piece that's kind of causing the kink in the chain, change that, and then it's like, and again, one of those aha moments where like, that makes sense. I'm not as broken and busted as I thought. You got all these guys that are in their 50s and 60s thinking, all they come into me and they say, I got to rotate more. And it's like, well, I don't know that that's really the case. I think that there might be more to it. Where do you guys see and how do you guys interact maybe with some of the fitness coaches that are in the game? I know you guys work with a lot of high level players, and how much interaction do you have with any of the fitness side of it and coordinating with that with some of your top tier players?
I think a real common scenario would be that a lot of them will bring their fitness guys in with them, especially the tour guys. And we'll tell them what we're trying to do in the swing, and they'll look at it and say, okay, we'll adjust this exercise, we'll add this exercise, or we'll maybe stop doing this. And you kind of you're all on the same page that way. And having a body that's tuned up is just as advantageous as having a swing that's tuned up, or having a diet that's tuned up to help you all reach your goal. I mean, they're playing for so much money out there, and the margins are so thin. Like, why wouldn't you have all these things ticked off?
Mm-hmm.
Shaun, obviously we hear a lot of Bryson DeChambeau these days. What he's doing with the golf ball is kind of insane. I think a lot of the stories go towards, the physical changes that he's made and the size that he's put on. But I know that there's a lot of things that he has been working on in his swing. And I don't know if either of you guys can even speak to this on if what were some of the changes that he may have made that people don't really understand how much of a difference that has made in his swing speed, maybe his distance and things like that.
So, just off the top of my head, just looking at his backswing, he's putting a lot more speed in the backswing, and it looks like he's shifting off the ball a little bit early in the backswing. So he's putting more work in early, which allows him to get more out of the downswing, I would say. Wouldn't you think that, Mike?
Yeah, about 3.5 inches, if I remember correctly, a shift off the ball in the backswing, and then certainly a lot more speed in the backswing. And then, in his words, he's trying to pull down a lot harder and a lot faster to start the downswing.
Yeah, pulling down, using his lats and getting his arms down as fast as he can.
And in your guys' opinion, how much of the difference has been made in maybe more swing technique stuff as opposed to, and obviously this is kind of a reach of a question, but as opposed to getting stronger in the gym?
I mean, I've been on his weight gain program for 15 years now. I haven't seen those kind of things. So it's got to be more swing technique.
Got to be swing technique. Oh, I love it. Mm-hmm. Real quick, just before we get into some of the final closeout questions here, just regarding the distance that we're seeing from all these guys, and there's obviously this big debate amongst the professional golf ranks on dialing back equipment or what should be done. I'd like to hear from each of you guys if you have any opinions or thoughts on, what may happen or what you'd maybe even like to see happen regarding kind of at the professional level. What, is there going to be something where we see restrictions in the technology? Is there going to be, are we just going to keep doctoring up golf courses differently for the pro tournaments? Shaun, what do you think?
Well, obviously, if I had a crystal ball, it'd be easier. I'm not sure on that one. I think it's fun to watch the guys hit it far and make birdies. I remember it reminds me of baseball when Sammy Sosa and those guys were cranking home runs, hitting 70 home runs a year. I mean, to me, that was a lot of fun to watch. So, I mean, probably sooner or later they'll dial some stuff back just to protect these golf courses. But it's kind of a fun time right now in golf, really, in my opinion, to watch these guys start to try to hit as far as they can or farther and watch them shoot lower scores.
How about you, Mike?
I'm not a big fan of the arbitrary kind of like changing a par 5 to par 4 just to try to produce an outcome. Athletes are better than they were 50 years ago, and they're going to be better 50 years from now. So you can roll back. Let's say we roll back the ball and club today. Its distance is still going to increase with these guys because they're getting better. There are kids growing up now who've only known swings from gears and launch monitors and force plates. Like you're just creating a better golfer from out of the crib right now than the guys that are out there playing. So you can put an arbitrary cap on it now, but it's still going to increase. I'm not into golf architecture as far as I don't have a stake in that game. So I certainly understand those arguments, but NBA players jump higher, NFL players run faster. Like it's just, it's the evolution of the athlete, right? And I don't know how you can arbitrarily stop that. And I don't know why you would want to. Certainly not more fun to watch a lot of pars.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
yeah, yeah. No kidding. I think it's gonna be interesting to see. And Shaun, I totally agree. Like this is a really, really fun time in golf. Anytime somebody's pushing the boundaries and pushing the limits, and people are kind of scrambling to figure out what to do. I mean, first of all, it just
fun.
draws more eyeballs. I mean, Bryson has drawn so many eyeballs recently that I think it's, whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, it's great for the game. So I think
It's good for the game.
it's gonna be cool to see. All right, fellas, I'm gonna wrap up with a couple questions that we love to ask all of our guests that we have on the show. First of all, before we do that, I want to know, is there anything that you guys have going on at AMG that anything that you want to put out to the listeners that you guys are doing? Any new projects that you have going on, Mike?
Yeah, we're just completing our AMG speed system to go along with our swing system, and it's a like our swing system. It's a start, really address to finish, walk through the golf swing with those parameters and windows that Shaun talked about. We're doing the exact same thing for increasing your speed in the golf swing that really complement one another, and it's all going to be inside our Plus membership.
Awesome. And where's the best place for people to go find your information? Is it the website? Is it YouTube, Instagram, all the above?
Yeah, we can. We're trying to make it so where golfers can't get away from us. But, yeah, all of our membership information you can find on our website, athleticmotiongolf.com. And then, of course, we've got tons of free content out there on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, apparently TikTok soon, and whatever else you put out there.
Awesome. We'll make sure all that stuff's linked up in the show notes. All right, fellas, I'm going to pose these questions to each of you guys. First of all, Shaun, Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore?
Caddyshack, that's easy.
Mike?
Oh, Caddyshack, 100%.
All right. If you guys could pick a walk-up song to the first hole, what is your walk-up song? Shaun, start with you.
Oh, man. I'll just put my Foo Fighters playlist on. Whatever comes up on that, it's pretty good for me if I'm out playing golf.
There we go. Mike?
I've only ever had one walk-up song, and it wasn't one I got to select. My brother and I give each other needle pretty hard. The last time we played together, I was walking up to the first tee box, and he had on his speaker in the cart the Fat Albert theme song. So,
hey.
Good brother.
Awesome. Shaun, if you could pick 3 guys in your dream foursome to play anywhere in the world, who are the 3 you're playing with, and what course are you going to?
All right, so we're playing Pebble Beach, that's the 18th right behind me there. I would probably say my brother, my dad, and my granddad. Be pretty fun day at Pebble Beach.
Awesome. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I would go. My dad and I got to play Bandon Dunes a couple times, so I would take him back out there, my brother, and if Shaun's done with his round, we'll have Shaun out there with us too.
I like it. I'm in. You
right
can come. You can come with us too, bro. Do 5-some.
Love it.
Caddy.
All right, fellas. I didn't put this one on the pre-notes, but I'm going to ask you, who's your pick for this this fall Masters that we have coming up?
What do you think, Mike?
I mean, you got to go with a long hitter.
McIlroy,
Bryson. Of course, Tiger, he's been laying low all season. You never know how that's going to be. Defending champ. Seems like forever ago when he won.
Doesn't it?
No, it's like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I would like to see Rory win one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, thanks for coming on,
fun.
man. I really appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely make sure that everybody knows where to go follow Athletic Motion Golf. Any last words from each of you for the 18 Strong community?
No, love the podcast. Love what you're doing, and keep doing it, man. It's awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.